For us as Zimbabwe, it's a very important event. We have been affected by global warming, by climate change. In a place where I come from, in the eastern highlands of Zimbabwe, it's called Chimanimani. 2-3 years ago, we were affected by devastating cyclones, which are a result, as you know, of global warming, causing loss of life, loss of infrastructure. And so the effects of climate change and global warming are very evident to us all. And so looking at the interventions around aviation fuel, the decarbonization, looking at the green aspects, the interventions that can be made by the aviation sector is very important for us as a country. I think you realize that it's just not sustainable for us to continue as we are. And what is very interesting for us is ICAO, in partnership with the European Union, with us as Zimbabwe, have conducted a feasibility study to see how we can move into producing sustainable aviation fuels. We do have an advantage as a country because already we're producing ethanol, which we blend with our petrol in country. We also have capacity to use what we call jatropha and castor beans to produce an alternative, a biodiesel. So we already have these interventions as a country. But now moving forward, sustainable agriculture, sustainable aviation fuel will be much more high value than what we are producing currently. And we do have capacity as a country. His Excellency Dr. Edi Mnangagwa, our President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, has been on a drive to really build infrastructure. So we have a number of dams that have been built, the Tokwemkosi Dam, we have the Osborne Dam in the Eastern Highlands, we have the Gwaishangani Dam. All of these dams are being constructed and there's a lot of land available to produce feedstock. So as a country, we're also looking now to say, with this capacity to produce the feedstock, we're also looking at partnering investment to actually do the processing of the sustainable aviation fuel in Zimbabwe so that we create the jobs. It really contributes to our GDP. So it's a very exciting process for us, but we do have a limited time and we need to move with speed. Well, the next step now is to actually look at the technical exchange to see what we need to actually put in place a plant that is dedicated to sustainable aviation fuels. And then look at the bankability of it and look at potential investment from the private sector, the public sector. I think the EU is interested in continuing the process. We have also many other countries that are interested to partner Zimbabwe, including I think even the Emirates, because Emirates is flying into Zimbabwe and it would be very convenient to set up a plant there where you have your sustainable aviation fuel available in Zimbabwe to fuel the aircraft, whether it's Air Zimbabwe, whether it's flyers coming in from outside. So it's a very exciting process, and what we are going to do is establish, when we get back, I'll brief my Honourable Minister, and the proposal is to establish a national task force around this, because we need the buy-in from Ministry of Lands, Ministry of Energy, Ministry of Higher Education, and Ministry of Transport. So establishment of an interministerial committee on this issue to run with it and look so that we have the land, we produce the feedstock, we have our universities and institutes of higher learning get involved in the research, we have Ministry of Energy involved, as well as our Ministry of Transport coming together to make this a success. Well, the EU has already indicated that they are willing to take it to the next stage. Now funding of the bankability of it, what investment is required, and we have been in talks with also from members from the UAE as well to see if they can also complement these efforts, because our relations as Zimbabwe and the UAE, as you know, are very friendly, very cordial. Our President, Dr. Edi Mnangagwa, was here very recently, meeting the leadership here. So it is something that we also can cultivate going forward. At the moment, EU, I think, is looking at continuing the process on the feasibility study. And then once there's a bankable proposal, then it will be open to investment, to see who is willing to come in and invest, whether from the EU, whether from the UAE. We are open for business. Well, we're hoping from the feasibility study, it says within the next 3 to 5 years, we have the capacity to actually start producing. So there's a statement that by 2030, no African country will have the capacity to produce SAF. And we're hoping as Zimbabwe that if we run with this and give it the necessary attention, we hope that by 2030, we will be one of the first countries to produce sustainable aviation fuels in Africa. Well, I think as a planet, we have no option. As humanity, we have no option. We have really damaged the environment, we've damaged the ozone layer. It's a reality. And if we want to survive as humanity, we have to really decarbonize. And I think what it means is, as you know, most of the emissions in the world, I think 60% of the emissions come from 1% of the population. And so the other 99% are carrying the burden of 1% of the population. So from my point, my moral standing is that it's really the responsibility of those who can finance this transition. It's more or less a moral obligation in a way to say, let's fund it, let's put the money where what we're talking about it, but let's come up with the financing for it. Africa, Zimbabwe, for example, our emissions are very, very low. So we are actually not obliged to cut by a certain percentage because we're already less than the threshold. But as a moral standing, we really want to contribute to it. And I think as a globe, as humanity, we really need to put the finances where, you know, what we're talking about to make it a reality. It's about survival of us and the generations to come. Well, as you can see, there are divergent views. If you look at the bloc of countries like the African aviation as a bloc, if you look at what China is saying, what Russia is saying, that yes, we do need a target, but our circumstances are different from country to country. So putting in a target, it's good, but in a way we might set a target that we don't meet. And ultimately, you know, that's then defeats the purpose. So it should really be on a country to country basis, looking at the special circumstances of each country. And if we are really serious about what we are saying now, we need to put financing to finance the South to produce the fuels, the sustainable aviation fuels, because we have the capacity, we have the land, we have the water, we have the human resource. And ultimately, global warming has not been because of the emissions from the South. So ultimately, let's allow the South then to produce not only the feedstock, but capacitate countries in the South to actually produce the fuel. Otherwise, we provide feedstock to countries that have the capital, they produce the SAF and then sell it back to us. And that defeats the purpose. So ultimately, I think we need to move together where we're saying no country should be left behind. What that means is let's have all countries together. Let's provide the expertise. Let's transfer the technology. Let's provide the necessary funding on concession loans. And then, you know, then we're really talking a genuine approach to this issue.